You're listening to the Otis Jiry channel.
Chapter 13. Revelation. After an uneventful few days, all was back to normal as the village returned to daily life, albeit with eyes darting skyward at the least opportunity. The professor was stretched out on a garden recliner, digesting his midday meal in the pub's back garden as Rose Bennett made her way through the village from her cottage with a determined but worried look on her face. "Hello, Rose," greeted George, who was out the front busy as usual sorting out his baskets of daily provisions. "Are you well?" Sort of, George. Just a lot on my mind. Is the prof about?" "He's probably asleep out the back. He usually is at this time of day." "I'll see if he's awake. I need to talk." "Anything to eat or drink, Rose?" "No thanks, George." Rose stood silently thinking at the side of the pub as she gathered up thoughts before she spoke to the professor. Spotting him under the pub's only tree, she called out, "Hello, hello, Professor, are you awake?" On hearing her voice, he pushed himself up on his arms to greet her. He'd grown to like her voice as well as her attractive features. "Rose, how are you, my dear? Lovely to see you. And you, Professor? Are you sure I'm not interrupting your after-dinner nap?" "I'm glad you're here, to be honest, Rose. I only keep going over the plans when I'm resting on my own." "Well, I'm in a similar state at the moment, particularly in view of what I've recently learned from a friend." "Sounds intriguing, Rose. Is it something you wish to share with me?" "That's why I've come along to see you, Professor. I need to talk, if that's all right with you." "Of course," he replied, jumping to his feet to drag a chair over. "Sit yourself down. I'm a good listener." "I know you are. There's not many people I can confide in, only Gail. In fact, the friend I'm speaking of first approached Gail to say she was ill with guilt and torment about something which happened while she was working at the Abbey." "There's quite a few villagers work up there, I gather." "Yes, mainly women in the laundry and room cleaners, with a few men helping the brothers tend the vegetable garden out back at this time of year. Mary was a room cleaner for some of the monks' sitting rooms and bedrooms at the residential far end of the Abbey." "Was a room cleaner, you say?" "Exactly. She's been attacked. And there are others." "Tell me what happened, Rose." "Our friend, Mary, had cleaned in that area for years, and the monks were always pleasant to her, often asking her about one thing or another. But one November, a couple of years back, one of the monks locked his door and kept the key while they were both in his room, and began acting in a very peculiar way, scaring her. Mary described how he began chanting in some gibberish and moving his arms around while holding an ornate silvery ring. She was terrified to be stuck in that room with him, Professor, and after a few minutes he overpowered her despite her desperate screams, and then he raped her." Rose broke down in tears with the professor comforting her with his arm around her shoulders, acutely aware of her scent. "My God, Rose! He became one of the mad monks affected by the Halloween miasma, I guess. Then what happened? How'd she get away?" "He threatened her. He said if she told anyone what had happened, he would put a curse on her. Now, Mary is quite superstitious, especially in view of what's been happening in the village over the years. She was scared and promised never to reveal what she had done to her. There's more. Mary told Gail that she was ashamed that she'd stolen that ring from the monk in her anger. Earlier, he had been gloating over it during his chanting, pushing and pulling it violently on his fingers. He said he'd stolen it from the abbot, so she thought she would return it to him. But she didn't because she was disturbed by its form and markings. She gave the ring to Gail, who gave it to me. I have it here. She just had to confide in someone, and it was Gail. Gail told me yesterday and thought you should know about Mary's experience, too. Were there others? Mary is sure there were, because around that time, some of her fellow workers were not their usual chatty selves. Oh, my goodness, Rose, I just hope we can finish all this in a few months' time. Can I see the ring? Of course. I brought it for you to see what you made of it. She unwrapped the silver ring from her handkerchief and gave it to the professor. It's disturbing, quite sinister, in fact, with its prominent skull and strange symbols around it. He reached in his pocket for his set of little magnifying glasses, neatly held in a black bakelite fold-out group of 3. He selected the middle one and proceeded to examine the ring. He was silent for a long time, until Rose thought she'd better ask what he thought. What do you reckon, Professor? Do you think it's valuable? Not because it's silver, because of its origin and what it represents, he said slowly. Did you see the inscription inside? I noticed some writing, but I didn't read it. This is an SS Death Head's ring belonging to Hans Kammler, and engraved with the signature of Heinrich Himmler in his spiky handwriting, he explained. Well, I've heard of Himmler, but not Kammler. Do you think it's significant that the names are so similar? It so happens that part of my job involved looking into Nazi psychology. In fact, it later became the thesis I presented, so I know both names and about the rings being presented to SS officers of distinction by Himmler. Who was Hans Kammler, then? Was he important? He certainly was. He was the officer in charge of building the extermination camps, as well as Hitler's so-called Wunderwaffens, wonder weapons. How ever did Abbot Gregory get a hold of the ring, then? Perhaps our Abbot Gregory isn't who we think he is. He took her hand and suggested a cliff-top walk. Together they slowly walked along the winding path, past the cemetery between the village and the sea, and on toward the nearby cliffs on this beautiful, sunny June afternoon. He occasionally returned his arm around her shoulders and her long black hair as they touched on sensitive areas in their lives. "Did you ever marry, Rose?" he asked quietly. "Very nearly. But us Bennett women have vowed never to marry. I would have been the first, but my fiancé was killed in a motorcycle accident on the road the other side of Oros, so perhaps my ancestors intervened. I'm so sorry, Rose. I didn't ever really want anyone else after that. What about you, Professor? Have you a wife back home in the city?" "Once, a while ago now. But like you, I lost the love of my life. It leaves an awful empty space I can't fill. Even though I try to throw myself into my work, it never goes away, especially in the quiet times when I'm on my own. It must be the same for you, Rose." They had stopped walking, and he inadvertently moved his hand to hold her head. Rose looked up into his eyes, and the moment was right for their kiss. From then on, a happiness neither had known for too long overwhelmed them both as they slowly walked back to her cottage, arm in arm. "Rose, I've lost all track of time. I just remembered I planned to meet up with Duncan at 4. Rose rushed in to check her mantel clock. "You'll just make it, Prof. By the way, I don't know your first name." Professor Benson was already hurrying away, but turned and called, "It's Charles, or Charlie. See you tomorrow, Charlie, at the Witch's Brew. Look forward to it, Rose." He blew her a kiss.